All right, Philip, what's the plan for today?
Okay, first thing is let's take this mask off so that we can speak properly.
Correct.
So, the plan is that we're here at Lower Peirce Reservoir, right? And it used to be the Kalang River Reservoir, or something like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to walk over that way to where the golf course is and the start of that bridge, and then we're going to walk back to where we are now and then up this way into the woods and see where that takes us.
So what would you say is your motivation for doing these sorts of videos?
Well, the idea is when I'm walking around, I want to observe what I'm seeing or what I'm passing by, and the only way I can do that really is to capture what I'm doing. So it has a dual purpose. The first thing is I want to have a record of what I'm doing.
Right.
All right. So that helps me look back and remember some of the places I've visited. But the other thing is that when I'm filming, is that it actually focuses my attention on where I am. Oh, it's starting to rain. Perfect. Shall we go that way?
Let's go walk up the hill.
Yeah.
You want to go along the...
Yeah, let's go and see where it takes us. Let's,
It looks like there's a kind of up into the hills trail, and then there's a kind of along the reservoir trail, yeah?
okay, let's go up into the hills.
Into the hills. So the name Ang Mo Kio, there's a lot of nonsense about where this name comes from. One of the things you'll find if you look online is that the word Kio, I believe, is Hokkien for bridge or something like this, and there was a white guy who had a plantation near here. Because white people are called Ang Mo, then they think the name Ang Mo Kio comes from that, and that's just completely false. If you look back at old maps, look in old newspapers, this area was known as usually Amokiah, some variation of spelling Amokiah, and they think this is because it was principally settled by Hokkien people who come from a part of China known as Amoy, and over time that name Amokiah got changed somehow into Ang Mo Kio, and this has become kind of institutionalized, and of course the area is now known as Ang Mo Kio. But it's got nothing to do with white people and bridges. Or tomatoes. That's another one that's come up because the word for tomato is Ang Mo. There's just none of that holds up to historical scrutiny. So the name is probably something to do with Amoy Kia because of the Hokkien population that was here.
So what would we call this, a gazebo?
I would call it a pendopo.
Which means?
It's they call them in Indonesia. I don't know if it's a Javanese word or an Indonesian word, but it means this kind of little gazebo type of structure. Pendopo.
Oh, this is nice.
For me, when I was a young man growing up, I used to go hiking in the Sierra Nevada, which had trails that were maintained by the United States Forest Service, but they were wilderness trails, meaning there was these sort of maintained boardwalks are very infrequent. They were very strenuous, often they'd be washed out. And for me, at least in my mind, hiking involves being in a further from the city and a more wilderness environment, less maintained environment. And this kind of, I guess you can call it urban hiking or something like this, or urban trekking, is usually through environments that are much more maintained.
Now, we can turn right here, or we can turn left.
Wait a minute.
What do you think?
Wait a minute. The Oncospermum Trail, the Jacaranda Trail, or Jacaranda Entrance, Bamboo Trail, or the Casuarina Entrance.
I think we should go on the bamboo trail.
Let's try that, and then if we get bored, we'll come back.
Yeah. Okay, good.
There you go.
Now, what's your protocol for dealing with the long-tailed
The sign
macaques?
says do not feed the long-tailed macaque.
Yeah.
Do not agitate the long-tailed macaque. And I like to talk with my people, because in a way they are. Hey, fellas.
They're just having fun. Look at them.
How you doing, guys? Mind if we come through? You mind if we come through, guys? Oh, hello. I'm not going to feed you. I'm not going to feed you. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
it's a camera.
Mind if we come through? Hello.
It's a camera.
Sorry. Sorry to break up your fun. Thanks, fellas. Voila.
They're just little kids.
Yeah, they're just like little kids, except that they can scratch your face off.
It's hard to get any closer than
Yeah,
where we
I don't
already
wanna,
are.
I mean, you could just walk down there, but
You could do, but then who wants to risk that?
those are beautifully, almost like paper mushrooms. I don't know much about fungi, but I know how to have fun.
Thank you for that.
I'm here for you, whether you want me or not. See, this kind of terrain is gorgeous. That, I believe, is a rubber tree, as is this. And I'm going to guess at one point this was all rubber plantation. If you look at the way, there's a rubber tree here, there's a rubber tree there, a younger rubber tree there. This is a rubber tree. These logs on the ground, the one we just saw with the mushrooms, this one, the dead one, are probably rubber. So I'm guessing this was the edge of a rubber plantation before they flooded that reservoir. Yeah, you can see these traces of the past, which is what I mean about this kind of urban exploration.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Looking and seeing, as you were talking about before, but you have to kind of know what you're looking at. And you find these traces of earlier attempts, earlier potentials that were discarded for whatever reason. And I think, if you want to talk about creating a historical narrative, it starts with stuff like this, just being aware that that's a rubber tree.
Right.
Which I think a large part of these sort of projects, whether they acknowledge it or not, is people are actually exploring these things. They're trying to find alternatives to the mainstream narrative that we're constantly being pushed back into. And there's a kind of natural human resistance to that for some people. And all of these attempts at YouTube and attempts at a lot of this kind of stuff, amateur video and things like this, blogging, is really an attempt to find the alternate narratives. That's, I think, what we're both engaging in our own separate project. In my green sphere project and your yellow sphere project.
Yeah.
So this is the old Sembawang Hill Estate taxi service call box with the old phone numbers on it still. And you can see along the side where the name is. This area used to be very popular with British troops that would come down from the Sembawang Navy base, which is a huge base, and they would come down here to eat and drink in this neighborhood. And this taxi stand was built for all the British troops who were going to be taking the taxis back to the Sembawang Naval Base. This is nice. Look at the taxi number. So you can still see the old taxi number. You can sit here and have a moment where you pretend to time travel, sit on the bench and go back into the 1950s.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How do you find out about these things?
This one I found out about from a good friend of mine who I was working on a project with for the National Heritage Board on the history of Ang Mo Kio for the Ang Mo Kio Heritage Trail.
Right.
And she took me up here and showed me this and explained it to me. And this is how these things survive, is because of word of mouth. Somebody knows and they tell someone else who cares and other people who care. Otherwise, this would be bulldozed so they could fit one more car into a small car park. And it's amazing. It's a small miracle this thing has survived.
Yeah.
How's my hair? Everything look nice?
Good. You've caught the sun.
Powder my nose?
No. I'm going to say you caught the sun.
The sun caught me.
Yeah, that's right. So we're having lunch, Will. What have you got?
This is roasted duck on white rice and some soupy bit and some sugarcane drink.
And I've got the same wonton noodle, although I can't see the wonton. What happened there?
This is what I ordered, and this is what you got.
Okay, so...
There's your wonton in the soup, bro.
Oh, I see, the wonton are in the soup. Oh, I'm sorry. And also, I've got a lime juice drink.
That looks nice.
Yeah.
And we're at the, what is this, the Bukit Sembawang Hawker Center? I didn't even pay attention to the name when we walked in. We've been here so long, we don't even care where we're eating anymore.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for today. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed walking around with you, learning from you. And yeah, thanks so much.
Likewise, it was very enjoyable. And to all you people out there in YouTube land, stay safe.